Hello all you fine beautiful people, I'm back here once again with another video, and today I'm going to be doing my top 20 albums that changed my life. Now I know Scott from the Prog Corner went on Sea Tranquility, they did their top 10, Notes to Review did his, Nathan on Shuffle, Nemo the Prog Nerd, bunch of people did all these top 10s, so I thought, you know what? I thought about doing a top 10, and the more and more I thought about it, the more I couldn't limit it to just 10, because there's probably actually closer to 20 that changed my life. So I thought, you know what, let's do a top 20. So growing up, I'm probably going to do these chronologically. I'm going to put a picture of the album for the first few seconds somewhere up in here, so just be on the lookout for that. But anyway, growing up, there wasn't much music around my house, no pun intended, but my parents had a little bit of a record collection, so I did go through that, and I remember being 8 years old, and over Christmas break one year, finding this album where it was the album cover absolutely... I was just mesmerized by it. I'm like, what is this? And it was a picture of a robot, and in his hands, blood and a bunch of humans. And the album is News of the New World, the band Queen. I love that record. That was one of the first records I absolutely found on my own and absolutely fell in love with. The shame is I never actually delved deeper into Queen other than their hits, but I heard News of the New World, We Will Rock You, We're the Champion, Sheer Heart Attack, and to this day, one of my all-time favorite songs, Spread Your Wings. I don't know what it is about that song, it just... Even at the age of 8, it just spoke to you on a different level. And for me, that was News of the New World by Queen. Now, it went on a few years. I kind of listened to a little bit of the radio, what was around. I'd get an album here and there, but nothing hit me as hard as the next album, and it's going to be probably the only greatest hits album on here, and there's a reason for it. Because without this album, I don't think I'm as big a music fan as I am today, or listen to as much music as I do today. And that would be the first time I heard Echo's The Best of Pink Floyd. And I started kind of different, because the CDs, I think, kind of got mixed up in the package. Like, it was my dad's CD. He got it for Christmas, so I think he listened to it, and I think the CDs just got put in reverse order. And I started with the blue one. And the first song I heard on there was Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Absolutely, like, 6 minutes in, you're hearing Rick Wright's just somber keyboard section. And then you hear the just bluesy, somber guitar work of David Gilmour. And blew my mind. I think I was only, like, 13 at the time. No idea what I was listening to, and to hear it, and then to hear it go on, and just blew me away. And then the second song I heard was Time. And then the third song was Fletcher Memorial Home. I'm trying to remember what was after that, but it was just such a great, it's the greatest hits of Pink Floyd, and it made me want to discover more, and I would have never picked up a guitar or ever wanted to play one if it wasn't for hearing Pink Floyd and David Gilmour. That is the album that really, I think, started me on my musical journey of at that time, felt like probably a 3 or 4 years straight of listening to nothing but Pink Floyd, absolutely soaking it in. The third album on my list, so after Pink Floyd, I was kind of in this lull where I was looking for something new, and I tried many different avenues. I tried the Sex Pistols. I seen the documentary, The Filth and the Fury, and it made me kind of interested to hear the Sex Pistols, so I gave Nevermind the Bollocks a listen. Didn't mind it. I heard the Who's Next out of that, but the next band that really spoke to me was The Doors, and the album... As many good albums that they have, or great albums they have, for some reason, I always go back to Morrison Hotel. And I was just like, why do I keep going back to this? And I think the reason is because every song on that record I know by heart. And it is probably the one start to finish that from the first time I heard it, it just pulled me in from the first notes of Roadhouse Blues into songs like Queen of the Highway, Land Ho was on there, Peace Frog's on there. Oh man, so many. Queen of the Highways on that. Maggie McGill, I believe, is on that as well. Just a great record. Fantastic. And it made me want to discover more of the Doors and Jim Morrison and listen to it. But what really brought me into that band was Robbie Krieger's guitar playing on that. Because I always found that tone very interesting. And just a very interesting guitar player. Now, around this time, I'm going around looking for more albums to listen to. And as I'm going along, I'm like, you know what? I move out around this time. And as I move out, I discover this band. I was learning to play guitar. I was taking lessons. And I seen this book of Learn to Play Guitar. And it was of this band. And I'll never forget this image because I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, these guys look cool. And it wasn't until I bought the book and then started listening to some of the songs that I realized I heard this before. And it was my infatuation that became with the band Guns N' Roses. And the more and more I listened to Guns N' Roses, the more I really delved into it. I really liked it. But the album that sold me on them, surprisingly not, is not Appetite for Destruction. It's not Use Your Illusion. It's Lies. That sold me on this band. I absolutely love that record. For me, Reckless Life, Move to the City, Mama Kin, the Aerosmith cover. Oh, what else on there? Used to Love Her, the better version, in my opinion, if you're crazy. One in a Million's on that album. Just Patience is on there, which I believe is the big hit off the album. Fantastic album. I think it's Guns N' Roses. It's not as heavy as Appetite, but I like it because it's a lot more of what I like of them. A lot more of their B-side material I think is way better than their hits. But that's just my personal opinion. And so I went along with Guns N' Roses for a while, and I'm like, you know what? I'm looking for something new. And I happened to just go in the record store one day. They're playing something that I'm just like, you know what is that? And the guy told me, oh, it's Jimi Hendrix. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. What album is this? And he told me, it's Electric Ladyland. And I went out and I'm like, you know what, they had a copy in there. I bought Electric Ladyland, listened to it, was absolutely blown away. What's on there? Have You Ever Been to Electric Ladyland? Is on there. Burning the Midnight Lamp, Crosstown Traffic, Along the Watchtower, Voodoo Child, Slight Return, Voodoo Child, which is a slower blues version of it. It's the one that always gets mixed up with Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's one of my favorites off that. And then it hit me. The song that made me a Jimi Hendrix fan, 1983. Is one of the best songs Jimi Hendrix ever wrote. Not only musically, lyrically. I absolutely love that. Just blew me away. I'm listening to this and I'm hearing that. Just, oh, it just hits you at your soul. And hearing Jimmy's album here, and it hit me in a way that Axis Bold as Love and Are You Experienced just haven't hit me. And I'm just like, and to end with Voodoo Child, Slight Return in the line, I didn't mean to take up all your sweet time, but I'll give it back to you one of these days. Fantastic. Well worth it. So as I was going through my Jimmy kick, I'm like, you know what? I want to find something new. I tried out a few other bands that just never clicked. And the next artist I found completely changed my life, changed the way I completely looked at music, and I don't think I've ever looked at music the same way. And that man would be Frank Vincent Zappa. from the first time. I remember exactly. I heard Steve Vai, and then I'm like, oh, it said, looking up Steve Vai songs, it's Steve Vai, Frank Zappa. It was mislabeled. It was called F Yourself. But it made me then just go out and say, well, what else can I find by Frank Zappa? Is he like this all the time? I had no idea that it wasn't one of his songs. But so I go out and I discover, and then I'm finding songs, and I just find these songs. Crew Slut, Teenage Prostitute, Catholic Girls, all this stuff. I'm listening to it and I'm like, what the heck is this? And I'm listening to songs like, especially Catholic Girls and Crew Slut, where as I'm listening, I'm like, it feels like there's a narrative here. So I went out to search out the album. I found the album, and it would be Joe's Garage. And to me, my life has never been the same since the first time I heard Joe's Garage. I got all 3 acts, and I'm like, what did I just hear? I still think Act 1, I still think the first album and a bit is some of the best stuff ever recorded by Frank Zappa. I know some might think that's controversial. Start to finish, it just flows seamlessly. You have songs on there like Central Scrutinizer, Joe's Garage, Catholic Girls, Crew Slut, Wet T-Shirt Contest, Total Line. Oh, what else is on there? Why Does It Hurt When I Pee? A Token of My Extreme. The phenomenal, phenomenal Packard Goose, Watermelon and Easter Hay. Some of Frank Zappa's best guitar work and some of his most poignant social commentary on music. So after that, I was listening around for a bit, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm looking for something new. And that's when I discovered a band that this channel would be named after. And that's where I discovered, I remember my dad always telling me, I asked him, what's your favorite song? And who's your favorite band? And he always said, my favorite song is Lady in Black, my favorite band is Uriah Heep. And I went and listened to it, and I found the song, and I'm like, that's awesome. It took me a while because I had no idea how to spell Uriah Heep. So I'm just like trying to figure out, okay, I know the song Lady in Black, Uriah, maybe a U. So I figured it out from there. And as much as I liked the albums Demons and Wizards, Magician's Birthday, at that point, Wake the Sleeper, I'd heard, the song that made me an absolute fan is Look at Yourself. The title track, Look at Yourself, I Want to Be Free, July Morning, A Shadow of Grief. In my opinion, one of the best songs and the most out-of-place songs on the entire album is one of my favorite. What Should Be Done. Fantastic song. One of David Byron's soulful vocal performances. I just listened to it over and over and over again, and it just every time blows my mind. I go on a little bit more and start getting into a lot more heavier music, and this is where I discover another band that would change my life, and it made me look at music in a whole different way. And that would be especially heavy music, and that would be Peace Sells But Who's Buying by Megadeth. I'd listened to a little bit of Metallica. At some songs I liked. I was never like really truthfully in love with a lot of their albums, but there were songs off each album I really liked. But album-wise, something just always dragged me towards Megadeth. And then it's very weird. After hearing Peace Sells But Who's Buying, the next album I heard was Euthanasia. And that was completely different. I'm like, whoa, what happened here? So it made me go back and discover a lot of their stuff, whether it be Killing Is Your Business, Business Is Good, So Far So Good, So What, Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, going on. It pretty much made me a fan, was off this album. Whether it be Wake Up Dead, The Conjuring, Peace Sells But Who's Buying, pretty much Peace Sells the song, Good Morning Black Friday, Devil's Island, I Ain't Superstitious, My Last Words. In my opinion, I love this album so much. I would say there are days where I prefer this album over Rest in Peace or anything else they've ever done. To me, this is a great record. Fantastic. It really sold me on heavy music and made heavier music a little bit more accessible to me, where it's like, okay, I understand it now. And I'm not sure if it was just that Dave had a little bit more melodicness to some of their songs. Not that Metallica didn't, but it's just, for some reason, it just always seemed to click with me. So then around 2011, I was just like kind of looking for something new. And I remember my uncle mentioning this band Quicksilver Messenger Service. And so I listened to a couple songs by him just on YouTube and just went through the suggestion. And this band popped up. And I have to say, this band changed my life and made me a fan and really got me into some obscure music that I would have never ever listened to without it. And I think it's probably one of my all-time favorite records. And that would be The Growers of Mushroom by Leafhound. Growers of Mushroom by Leafhound. Fantastic album. Bluesy rock, Hendricks-esque, Zeppelin at times. Peter French is a fantastic singer. It's a shame he never continued with Leafhound, that it was kind of always a one-off. And he went and joined Atomic Rooster, did a little bit of work with them, then went on to Cactus, and then solo. I've always thought he is a fantastic singer, and I know Scott from the Prog Corner mentioned Patrick Moraz's bad luck with bands as a keyboard player. I always felt Peter French is sort of in that same category as a singer, where wherever he joined a band, it was kind of just temporary. But after Growers of Mushroom, I went into another band, and this is band number 10 on the list. That's where I discovered this obscure band, one album only, Morgan, however it's pronounced. Self-titled album, blew my mind. Welcome to the Void, She's the Nighttime, and Eternity in Between. Some of the best, some phenomenal guitar playing, some of the most poppy music with some of the most heaviest drumming underneath. And I remember listening to this album first time, and I'm like, why do I like this? And I'm listening to it, I'm like, the drummer. That's why I like this, because that is so heavy underneath that you would have never expected, especially a song like She's the Nighttime. On to album number 10, or I guess 11. This would be higher on the list, maybe should be higher on the list, but I came into this, I remember, actually it should be higher on the list, I don't know why it's here. All I have to say is 3 words, and everyone will know the album, or know who it is. Trout Mask Replica. I'm going to say this. First time I heard Trout Mask Replica, I absolutely hated this album. I thought it was crap. I didn't want to hear any more of it. And I thought, who said this is a masterpiece? And I put it away for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I was on YouTube one day, and wouldn't it behold, Matt Groening from The Simpsons talking about Trout Mask Replica. And I'm like, I have to hear this. I have to hear what somebody else thinks of this record. And he talked about it. And he's like, first time he put it on, he's like, what is this? I absolutely hate this. This is terrible. It's crap. I'm never listening to it. I can't believe I wasted my money on it. But he said one thing in that interview. He's like, I was such a huge fan of Frank Zappa. I decided to give it another chance, another spin, just because it was Frank. Produced it. And I did the same thing. And wouldn't it behold, it was still a crap album, but it wasn't as crap. And each time I listened to it, it got a little bit more palatable for me. And the reason why I put this on this list is because I think it made me look at albums differently. Albums I might not have liked or thought were crap, it made me go back and re-listen to them and see, has my opinion changed? And that's one of the great things about this record. Either that or this record should be charged with Stockholm Syndrome. Because it's like, wow. And I seen a reactor recently. They gave him this album. This album should never be given to somebody for a first-time reaction. I'm going to say it right off. And anybody who does and then craps on somebody for not liking it, it's your own fault. Because me, first time I heard it, I thought it was crap. I think it's really damn good now. I think it's one of those albums that takes a long time to really get into. But I digress. On to the next album. Speaking of a band I talked about earlier, Atomic Rooster. And they were another band I found in there. And I really love their record, Death Walks Behind You. But for me, my favorite Atomic Rooster album right now, I haven't listened to too much of them, but it really changed my life, was In the Hearing Of by Atomic Rooster. Fantastic record, one of, in my opinion, up there. You have Black Snake, Decision and Decision, Breakthrough, just some fantastic stuff. Vincent Crane on vocals, you had Peter French on vocals, John DeCon is the guitar player, fantastic. I believe Jeffrey Hammond, I believe, was the drummer in that band. Just really good. If you're looking for really good keyboard-driven progressive rock with a very heaviness to it, this would be it. Also had a lot of really good guitar playing as well on it. Album number 13. It's an album I heard a lot, but it took me a while before I actually sat down and listened to the whole thing. And that would be The Madcap Laughs by Syd Barrett. I listened to all the David Gilmour solo albums. I listened to all the Roger Waters solo albums. I've listened to pretty much all of Rick Wright's and Nick Mason's. But there's something about the Madcap Laughs that I went back and listened to. And I'm like, this is a phenomenal record. And it kind of got me thinking about it recently. And I'm like, I'm not a big knowledge guy on indie music. But I always looked at the Madcap Laughs as kind of a template for indie music. Especially this album. Like, it kind of feels like a template for it. You have songs like Terrapin, Here I Go, I Love You, or Golden Hair. There's so many great songs on this record. I put it on, and I believe Scream Thy Last Screams on this. I put it on, and pretty much I can blow 40 minutes just listening to this album. It does not feel like a 40-minute album. It's fantastic. I really heavily recommend to anybody into Pink Floyd, listen to the Barrett. Listen to this and the album Barrett. Because to me, it's phenomenal. It really is. On to the next album on the list. Album number, I want to say 14, would be, surprisingly, first 90s band on this list. I know I talked in a reaction I did about this band. I love their first two. After that, I never really listened. I think there's always this fear is if I listen to anything past what I like, I'm going to be disappointed. But anyway, I thought I'd do this. Shake Your Moneymaker by the Black Crowes is, in my opinion, an album that made me completely change the way I look at certain bands from that era. Like, I remember getting into them. Stone Temple Pilots was another band I listened to a few songs by. But it kind of opened me up a little bit more to the 90s. And especially that, you have Twice as Hard, Hard to Handle, the great cover. Great cover. She Talks to Angels. I believe Jealous Again is on this one. Just a fantastic record by the Black Crowes. Like, listening to it over and over and over again, like, my wife suggested it to me, like, you have to hear this record. So I went out, I listened to it, I'm like, you know what, that's a fantastic record. On to the next album on my list. Album number 15 has to be Bloody Kisses, Type O Negative. I had never heard of Typo Negative. I remember I was looking at video suggestions for something new to listen to, and I heard Christian Woman. And I'm like, okay, I really like that song. Then I heard Black Number One, Little Miss Carol. I'm like, okay, I like that song. And then I heard I Hate Everyone. Then I'm like, oh man, this is getting good. And it continued and continued. And for about 2 months straight, I listened to nothing but Typo Negative. And I had to stop, because there's one thing about Typo Negative. I can handle them, but I can handle them in doses, because it's such downer music, is I guess the best way to describe it, that it does have this feeling of depression, but there's also some absolutely great moments in the music. The next album on my list, album number 16, Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Now, I'd heard a little bit of blues, and I've always heard about Stevie Ray Vaughan. I never actually sat down and listened to him until really about a number of years ago, and wow, it's almost been a decade. I sat down and I listened, and I seen Texas Flood, sorry for the train, in the, I seen Texas Flood in Walmart, so I'm like, you know what, I'll give it a shot, I'll give it a listen. And I remember bringing it home, and I heard songs like Texas Flood. I believe Marietta Little Lamb might have been on that album as well. The song for me that sold this album to me, Love Struck Baby was on that, I believe too, was Lenny. In my opinion, I heard that and I could not pick my jaw off the floor. Is the first time I heard Lenny. I'm like, what is this? What is this guy doing? And it's just such a number. And then I remember going in deeper and then hearing songs like Riviera Paradise off other albums. And then I heard Voodoo Child Slight Return. And just hearing all these songs. Little Wing. Pride, like I already heard Pride and Joy. Like that was pretty much his big song. But hearing everything by Stevie Ray Vaughan. And there's just a feeling in there that I'm like, I absolutely love this. I just can't look at this the same way. It's fantastic. On to the next song, or next album on the list. And now I'm going to get into more of my reaction channel time albums that I think really have changed me. Album number 17, Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes. I love Yes. I love a lot of their music. There's just something, and some would say, well, you say Fragile is your favorite, but there's something about Tales from Topographic Oceans that takes you on such a cosmic journey. And I don't think I would have got into Tales from Topographic Oceans had it not been for Captain Beefheart's Trout Bass Replica. I think that absolutely deserves to be there. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal album, start to finish. Like I said, it's not for everybody. I know there's some people who really think parts 2 and 3 are really bad. I don't. I think it's an album that there really is no middle ground on. I think either like it or you hate it. At least from what I've seen. But it's one of those, I was flying over from Alberta to Ontario, and I had this album on. It's just in a plane, and it was pretty much raining outside, and I just was watching the ground underneath as listening to this album. There's something kind of hit me on a spiritual level. I just absolutely liked it right from the start. Now on to the next album, number 18. For me, when you talk about modern progressive rock, I have to look up the name of this song just to make sure I got it right. But when you're talking about modern progressive rock and me getting into it, there is one album that speaks to me more than any other, and that is Songs from the Hard Shoulder by The Tangent. I know me and Scott on the Prog Corner on our weekly prog stream every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. talk about modern prog a little bit. And for me, I am not a fan, or I don't delve deeper into modern prog without Songs from the Hard Shoulder. The Lady Tied to the Lamppost is one of my all-time favorite epics any band has ever done. The bass work, the drums, the guitar, keyboards, everything. It just completely blew me away the first time I heard it. On to album number 19, A Passion Play by Jethro Tull. Now, some would say, why haven't you chose Thick as a Brick? Because A Passion Play is the first full album where this concept that I heard used. I didn't go to Thick as a Brick first, I went to A Passion Play. And there's something about that record that absolutely changed me and made me give Thick as a Brick a try, and makes me want to give what is it, Nectar, Remember the Future a try. This whole full album, one song. Just, it's a phenomenal record. Even The Rabbit in the Hair, the more and more I listen to it, the more I've actually really grown to like it. So I thought, you know what, deserves to be on this list. Album number 20 just recently joined the list. And I'd heard songs by this band, but there's something about Crime of the Century by Supertramp that has absolutely spoken to me since starting this channel and really looking at Supertramp differently and everything. But it just completely changed my mind, the way I look at stuff, the way I want to look at stuff, and really delve deep into bands, and kind of my preconceived notions can just go away. Just listen. Just sit back and listen. And I think that's one thing since starting this channel that I really am grateful for, is the fact I've kind of distanced my preconceived notions, and I've begun to really step back and listen, and have discovered some absolutely great bands, even some bands where I can't stand their hits no more. I'm like, I can stand their other stuff because it's like, it's new, it's fresh. And to me, some of it is absolutely mind-numbingly awesome. Like, just kind of throw it on, just sit back and take a journey. And that's one of the things I really enjoy. Even doing the prog stream with Scott, I get a musical education in a lot of stuff, and hearing how other people think of albums, not just myself, and especially a lot of other people on YouTube. Notes Reviews, another one I watch a lot of, where I really value his opinion, and hearing how he interprets an album that maybe and makes me go back and say, well, what am I missing? Am I missing anything? And it's really made me dig deeper. And forever, I'll be forever grateful for this channel. That's one of the greatest things that I learned doing this, is to take a musical humbleness and realize you have a lot to learn. And I think that's one thing that I absolutely love. I've discovered so much, so many great bands. And I thought, you know what, this would be a great time to do this video. I know it's a long video. If you stuck through it, thank you so much. But anyway, once again, I have to say thank you guys so much for watching. It really, really does mean a lot. I appreciate every single one of you. This is me here. I'd love to know, what are your guys' top 10 lists or top 20? Please comment down below. This is me here signing out. Peace.